In this video, I'm gonna be running a stock 2020 with the 10-speed transmission against my 2019 with the 6-speed transmission. Let's see how much power each of these trucks made. Before we dive into that, I wanna give a huge thank you to Sean. He is a subscriber here on the channel, and he actually drove over an hour up to run his truck against my truck on the Dyno Jet. To set the stage here, I want to talk about the setups for both of the trucks, because while they are very similar, I have a bunch of air upgrades and our tire sizes were a little different. For the stock 2020, when I'm saying stock, I mean there are no engine upgrades to improve airflow. So it's the stock cold side and hot side intercooler pipes, stock intake manifold, stock airbox. The truck does have a leveling kit on it with BDS front coils and Bilstein shocks, and Sean is running a 285/75 R18 load range E tire. So he is running an oversized tire pretty close to a 35. Now, my truck is a 2019 with the 6-speed transmission, and I have done almost every air upgrade there is. I have a Banks cold air intake, the ram air. I have the pusher intake manifold. I have the pusher hot side pipe and an S&B cold side pipe. My truck does not have 35-inch tires. My tire size is a 295/70 R18, but both trucks had a 3.1 axle code, so they are a 373 non-limited slip rear axle gear ratio. The other common denominator between both of our trucks is that we both run Arch Oil's AR6500. This is an everyday treat that will clean the injectors, the exhaust side of the turbo, takes care of your DPF, EGR, adds lubricity and cetane to the fuel. It's the only additive on the market that actually does all that, and I've been running it in my truck since I bought it, and it works great. If you want to support the channel, please consider following the link I'll pin in the comments. You can use the code PSM all caps 10 to get 10% off your order at archoil.com. In short, for the dyno results, Sean's 2020 with no air upgrades blew me out of the water. He hit 424 horsepower, while I only got to 368 horsepower. Now, in terms of torque numbers, his truck, the uncorrected Dyno Jet torque numbers for the 2020, with no air upgrades or tuner, just 35s and running Arch Oil, he made 910 foot-pounds. The corrected number was over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels, which is incredible. My truck, for comparison, only made 765 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels. Now, we both have very similar sized tires. I want to say the 285/75 R18 is like a little smaller than a 35. It's like a 34.8, and my tires I think come out to about it's like a 34.3 or 0.2, so they're like within a similar size of each other. So there's a couple things here that are interesting to me. The first thing is that he's making about 56 more horsepower at the wheels than I am. And the reason that's interesting is that Ford says that the 2020s only make 25 more horsepower. I think the 2020s are supposed to make 475 at the crank, and my truck is supposed to make 450 at the crank. But you're not seeing a 25 horsepower difference. You're seeing a 56 horsepower difference, and he has bigger tires than me, and no air upgrades. Now, his truck also only had 76,000 miles on it about. My truck has, at this point, 205,000 miles. So again, little difference in age there. I don't really think the age is holding me back that much, but it is interesting that it seems like the 2020s with that 10-speed have a little bit less parasitic loss in the drivetrain. The other thing I found really interesting was the shape of our curves, of our power curves, specifically horsepower. I think it was really interesting how much his curves kind of fell off, and that he was actually able to get more RPM out of the truck because of the 10-speed transmission. You'll see his governor kicked in closer to 3,000 RPM, whereas my governor kicked in at 2,800 RPM. So just kind of an interesting thing I noticed. The other thing is too, like my horsepower curve doesn't seem to be falling off until it hits governor, whereas his horsepower and torque curves fall off a lot more abruptly. And so that may be kind of commenting on the air upgrades I have. I think that they probably help me build, more horsepower because I'm getting more airflow, but I'm still not outperforming the wheel horsepower of a 2020. You guys that have 2020 through 2022 or 2023 plus trucks, you're making a lot of power at the wheels. And it is actually incredible that 10-speed transmission is delivering that. I think that is crazy. Just you're gaining 25 horsepower at the wheels just because you don't have as much parasitic loss. So that to me is very interesting. And that was actually a point that Sean brought up as we were kind of looking at our results. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. It's cool to see what air upgrades do to your power curve and just how much power you can make out of these newer 6.7 PowerStrokes. It is remarkable. If you haven't yet already, be sure to visit archoil.com and use the code PSM10 to get yourself 10% off a collection of additives to help your truck run better. We'll see you next time here on PowerStroke Maintenance. Cheers.